How'd you like to get Ben Burns, Jazz Ray, and Brian Power for the next 3 days for the price of one? For 2 decades, Covers.com ranked among the biggest pick selling websites on the internet. Last July, they stopped selling picks, and at that time, their 3 most popular handicappers were Ben Burns, Brian Power, and Jazz Ray. With Wager Talk being the industry leader, it was only natural for those 3 esteemed handicappers to go exclusive with us. They all bring extremely impressive resumes to the table. While they're here because of their long-term excellence, all 3 have turned plenty of heads since their arrival. Jazz ranked among the best handicappers on the entire site in 2022. Brian is our #1 handicapper in March, and Ben quickly established himself as this season's #1 big game college hoops handicapper. For the first time ever, you can get all the picks from Ben, Brian, and Jazz for the price of only one of them. This amazing offer won't last, as you can get 3 days of picks regularly priced at $59 each, which is $177 for all 3, including any 5% best bets normally priced at $35 for only $655 per handicapper. That's right, $59 for all 3 cappers for all 3 days. Take advantage today.
Happy Thursday, guys. Welcome to Wager Talk TV and Puck Time. I'm Carmine Bianco, of course. Andrew is off for the next couple of days. He is still in Florida. It's his girl's birthday today, so I think they're going to Disneyland. He's going to be riding the teacups. He's tall enough to pretty much get on any ride. He's probably too tall to get on some of the rides. But filling in his regular spot and co-hosting today, Brian Leonard. And we got a full, an action-packed card of hockey, Brian, man. After a night where there was only a couple games last night in the NHL, the Penguins getting a big win in Colorado. Sidney Crosby just played absolutely lights out. He led that team yesterday. A fantastic game by him and a good defensive effort from the Penguins. And then the Oilers, in a game where there is no defense, win the game in OT 4-3 to keep that push to try and win the Pacific alive. And you're back from spring training, which I think is absolutely fantastic. And I just found out you were at the Mullet Arena during spring training. How was that experience?
That was fun. I'd been to a basketball game at Arizona State before, but I'd never been to the hockey game and wanted to go. And I wanted to go see the Knights play there before, but there's so many people going to that the prices were jacked up. But Minnesota was in town and had a chance to see that game. We went to overtime. Arizona wins. In fact, Arizona won every single game they played while I was in Arizona. So they may want to contact me and give me some season tickets here for Arizona if they wanted to win some more games. I'd appreciate that. But it was a really nice experience. It had like the feel of like a college game or whatever. All the seats are real tight next to each other. So, only 4,400 seats. But, yeah, it was a lot of fun, and it was nice getting up close to the ice and not having to pay, $500 to do so.
Yeah, and that's the thing is the prices are just at some of these arenas, the prices are ridiculous. Obviously, I'm north of Toronto, 45 minutes away from downtown Toronto, and you can't go and watch a game there unless you wait until like game day and pretty much game time to try and get tickets off of scalpers or online where you can buy them last minute. It's absolutely insane. If you want sort of the lower bowl, they're called the platinums and the golds. Prices for those tickets are normally, even for some of the worst teams coming in, are $500-600 a seat. You want to sit on the glass, you're talking about $1,000 a ticket. It's virtually impossible for any family of 4, even if you sit in the 300 levels, which is still a good view, to go and watch a game. I think if you try and go and watch a Leafs game, a family of 4, and you have to park downtown, let's say, 4 tickets to the game, a couple beers, hot dogs, pops for the kids, it's going to run you about $500 minimum for a family of 4, and probably a little north of that. So it's just too expensive. Toronto really could use another team, just put them north of Toronto, kind of like New York has, the Islanders, they have the Rangers. It would be a great idea, and but the Leafs will, and MLSE will always nix that idea. They have a monopoly on the Leafs, and season ticket wait lists that they just stopped taking names. It's probably about 50 years long. All tickets are passed down from generation to generation. But to your point of Arizona, I wanted to mention something before we get into the games today. I'm watching the Oilers game yesterday, and this is every telecast is gambling related now, and the commentators will mention the odds, they'll mention the over-unders, but sometimes they throw out stats which are just absolutely ridiculous. Like, I'm watching the Edmonton game last night, and before the game, I don't know who the announcer was, but she says Edmonton could be in for a long night tonight. They're playing a super hot Arizona team. I get it. Arizona's won like 5 of the last 6 or 5 of the last 7, but maybe mention they're like they've lost 19 of the last 20 games on the road. Now, the game did go to overtime, and Arizona had a chance to win, but they've lost 19 of their last 20 on the road. At least mention that. Like, mention they're super hot, but they have lost 19 of the last 20. Right. Anyone watching who's a novice might think, oh, Arizona got a shot, right? So ultimately, they did have a shot, but they lost. And now they've lost 20 of their last 21 on the road, probably. So it's you watch this sometimes, and as bettors, you have a lot of people who are new to this, and when they're trying to talk about it on air, there's a little bit of humor to it. Guys, on today's show, we are going to do the Rangers and Canes, Leafs and Panthers, Seattle and Nashville, and we're going to end it off with Pittsburgh and Dallas. 4 games with every single team fighting for a playoff spot, and that's what I said we're going to do with these games. Between now and the rest of the regular season, we're going to focus on games where there's teams that are in playoff races. And Brian, I know you're good with that, and you have a 5% play up tonight in the NHL, and we'll get to that a little later. But let's kick it off, guys. First game, Rangers and Canes. Let's have a look at the numbers on this one as we'll get them up on the board. The Canes, minus 140 at home. The Rangers, plus 120. The total here is at 6, shaded to the under. I'm going to discuss this game quickly, and then I'll go to Brian to get his thoughts on it. But we talked about these two on Tuesday when they played in New York. And New York the Rangers were on a very good run at the time. And they had won both games in this series and by big score lines. I like the under in that game, and I like the under again in this one. I just think these are two teams. Those first couple of games were earlier in the season, and these teams are settling in now. The Rangers are playing much better, although they're 5-5 on the road their last 10 games. And the 5 wins, 4 of them have come against the Sabres, the Canadiens, the Flyers, and the Vancouver Canucks. I get it. You can only beat the teams in front of you, but they've lost against some of the better teams in the league over that 10-game stretch. And the Canes are one of the better teams in the league. 11-3-1 their last 15 at home, albeit one of those 3 losses was a 6-2 loss to the New York Rangers. I like the under in this game. I think 6 gets there. The under 6 gets there. So that's going to be my call in this game. Under 6. Brian, let me go to you and give me your thoughts on this one.
Yeah, a rematch of just something that happened a couple nights ago. New York's actually fared pretty well against Carolina. Last few years, done pretty well this year, although they did lose that game. They had a 4-game winning streak going into that game. We were 4-0 at home and lost to Carolina. You mentioned how the Rangers play on the road. They played 5 road games in the month of March, and 4 of those games went to overtime. I know you're a guy who plays a lot of the props and everything, but I could see this being another game that goes to overtime based on, you like the under. I think the under is probably a good bet. You take a look at the Rangers defensively lately, and they give up 3 to Washington, 2 to Pittsburgh, nothing to Pittsburgh the second time they played them. They shut out Nashville, so they're coming off of two shutouts, and then Carolina gets 3 against them. So they're playing very good defensively. I don't see an advantage in the side or the total here, but if you can get a good price here for this game to go to overtime, I think that's the way I would look at this one.
Yeah, and to your point of that, I'm just going to quickly look it up. This game actually getting to overtime, what the odds are on it, and the price is plus 320 for this game to be tied after 60 minutes. And it's Brian, it's a good point. It's something that we mentioned I think earlier this week on the show is you're going to see a lot of games get to overtime. Now, teams seem to tighten up in the close games in the third period, and especially the ones that are bordering on those wild card spots are trying to pick up points. It is, I was going to say it is what it is, but it is what is happening in the league. We're seeing games go to OT, which is why I think as this season winds down, it's very tough to take, in some cases, very tough to take those puck lines where you're laying the -1.5. And if you can get some plus money on the +1.5s, those are sometimes the way to go because you're a winner once that game hits OT. Would you agree?
I agree. In fact, yesterday you mentioned the Arizona game. They were +2.5. And you're only laying 110. And if you're, I should have been on it. I wasn't on it. But if you're a team that's running really well like Edmonton is right now, and then you're playing the lesser teams, you would expect a lesser effort. So should have been on Arizona yesterday. If I would have watched the beginning of that game and they talked about the hot streak Arizona was on, I might have been on it. But I think the reason why they do that is keep people interested. If they were to go in and say, hey, this is a team with a -450, maybe people wouldn't watch. So that's one of the reasons why they do that kind of thing. But you've got to be able to pick your spots here. And this is a game where both teams have the same interest in this game, and they played some tough games. So I think that's a good value, +320.
Yeah, and it's funny because I enjoy the fact that they bring some of the gambling content into it. We've been used to so many years Monday Night Football and listening to like Al Michaels or the guys discuss, well, this game really isn't over yet, and with the huge scoreline where a team is up 3, and it's similar to if you watch the Colorado Pittsburgh game last night. Russ scores an empty netter with about 19 seconds left, and the announcer says something to along the lines of, "All right, some of the fans can leave now because this game truly is over." And it's the gambling talk that used to be taboo on TV for the broadcasters is no longer taboo. So that's the enjoyable part of it now. They're saying what we're thinking, which is the great thing. The game is truly over now. One game that talking about overs is the next game. It is the Leafs and Panthers. And another one of those 7s. Let's have a look at the numbers on this one. Leafs and Panthers in Florida. Panthers -140. The Leafs +120. The total's at 7 here, shaded to the under. Brian, I'm going to go to you first, but I'm going to put up a stat here from our stat daddy, Ralph Michaels. And we talked about the Edmonton game yesterday and how they were 6-3-1 to the over 7 this season, and they've been carrying that over 7. You want to look at the absolute reverse, and let's look at the Florida Panthers. These are the Florida Panthers. They have been they've had a total of 7 in 9 games this year. 6 of them have gone under. 3 of them have been pushes. 1 against the Sabres 4-3, 1 against the Canucks 4-3, and 1 against the Ducks 4-3 as well too. So if you've been taking the overs in the Florida games, you've lost money on those. Unfortunately, you're down units on that one, and it's kind of where I'm leaning here as well too. You look at the Leafs. Actually, let me go to you first, Brian, and then I'm going to talk about this game. But give me your thoughts on this one. I know you're not a totals guy, so are you looking at the side here?
It's interesting is I looked at this and I said, if I can get a 6.5, I'm playing the over, and it comes out at 7. Money's come in on the under. It's agreed with Rob Michaels' stats there. But if you take a look at the way these two teams have played lately, I'd still kind of like the over here. You look at Florida's games lately, they've scored 7, 9, 14, 6, 7, 9. And very similar with the Maple Leafs as of late. 7, 11, 7, 3, 7, 9, 9. So I could see the over here. And my first look at this was the over, but we know that once you get to that 7, that's a key number in hockey. And it's tough to go over 7. I'm hoping this line continues to go down and we can maybe be able to find a juiced 6.5. That's the way I would look at it. I'm really interested to see what your thoughts are on Toronto overall. I know, being a Canadian, you follow them much closer than I do. Is this team been a major disappointment since the trade deadline? I thought they were just putting it all together, and they really have not played well at all in that regard. So it'll be interesting. I'm sit back and listen to what you say about the Maple Leafs here, but this is a team right now. They're really tough to bet on because you really don't know what you're going to get on a regular basis.
And that's it. You don't know what you're going to get on a regular basis. And literally in my notes, I have the Leafs are consistently inconsistent. Now, it's not a bad thing if a majority of that inconsistency is a loss here and there. But they haven't put a win streak larger than 3 games since the 13th of December. You have to go back there where they won 4 in a row. They get the 3 and they'll drop 1 or 2. And if you look at them, their last 20 or 25 or even 30 games, there's a couple wins, a loss, a couple wins, a couple losses. So it's that consistently inconsistent. They haven't put together that streak. And sometimes we see a team win 7, 8, 9 in a row. Leafs did that a lot last year. They haven't done it this year. And then the Panthers. I get the Panthers as being the favorite at home, -140. It might be a little too high against a Toronto team that can play. But you look at the Panthers, they are off their last 7 losses. They are a perfect 7-0. They have bounced back off of every single loss. And they're coming in off a loss in this one where they imploded against the Philadelphia Flyers in Philadelphia. So returning home, if this price was lower, and I know it doesn't, if you guys are listening to this, you're like, -140 isn't a lot. Against a good team like the Leafs, I don't want to really lay 140 with a Florida team that, although they're battling for a playoff spot, they're still not in the playoffs. Pittsburgh took over that 8th spot. I would rather lay 110, 115, maybe 120. At some point, the Leafs have value at bigger plus money in that one. So I'm going to go the under here. I'm going to lean on the under here. A slight lean on the Panthers just because of that stat, 7-0 off of a loss their last 7. But I'm going to lean under here because that trend of 6-3 just seems like one I can't ignore right now. And we'll look for the Panthers' route to winning tonight is to try and keep the Leafs off the scoreboard as much as possible, which helps that underplay. So that's where I'm leaning here on this one. All right, let's go to the third game, guys, on the card, and I'll see if I can find some questions to answer if we're moving along here in our chat. One guy asked us about taking the draws. Would you take a draw in the Canes and Rangers game that we mentioned previously? I probably would. I don't have a play on the game right now, but it's probably one I would lean to for like maybe a unit, half a unit play. But with that said, let's get to Seattle and Nashville. Line in this one, the Kraken -130 at home. 130 on the road. Nashville +110 at home. The total here is -120 on the over. This is the first of 2 games in Nashville between these two. They're going to play on Saturday as well, too. And you got to believe that these 2 games are going to go a long way to deciding whether Nashville is out of the race come the end of this weekend. Seattle 7th on 85 points after that win in Dallas. Nashville 10th with 78 points. Seattle could really bury them with a couple of wins here and bury them as far as that 7th place spot goes. They still could look at maybe that 8th spot with Winnipeg, but Winnipeg is playing well as well too. Brian, I'm going to go with Seattle here. I like Seattle. That was a huge win in Dallas for them. I'm drawing a line through the fact that Nashville went into Buffalo and beat the Sabres 7-3. I'm drawing a line through it. They weren't playing well before that win in Buffalo, and I think the Sabres have given up. I think the Sabres season is over, and that loss just highlights it. I'm drawing a line through that. I don't think Nashville's as good as that 7-3 scoreline says. I'm going to fade them here. I'm going to take Seattle in the first of 2 against the Preds. What are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, very similar to your thoughts. Yes, Seattle against Dallas was very good to me the other day. Had an underdog game of the week. I believe it was a 4% play on Seattle in that game, and they played well until the end, where Dallas scores with 1 second to go, sends it to overtime, and then of course it's one of those games that if you've had Seattle, you start to think, oh Jesus, they're going to find a way to lose this game, but they came out in overtime and won. This is a team playing very well. They've now won 5 straight games on the road in the month of March. They were very good on the road earlier in the season, if you remember. They went on an Eastern road trip, and I believe they beat Boston. So this is a team playing with a lot of confidence on the road. You mentioned Nashville. Yeah, Nashville's a team right now that you've got to have a really good reason to play them. They're just not playing well, and they're not playing with a lot of energy, at least in the games that I've been able to see from them, and they haven't done well. They are coming off that big blowout win against Buffalo, and Buffalo's a team right now, talking about teams who have given up on the season. Buffalo's really starting to look like a team that you can fade the rest of the way. And at one time, they were looking to make the playoffs, and they were in a pretty good playoff spot, similar to Detroit in a lot of reasons, where you get a team that's right there on the cusp. And then we talked about this in the past, when the trade deadline comes and the teams don't make the trades, I think that has an effect on the players. And that's the way it's been on those teams, and it's been just a downfall ever since then. If the management doesn't think your teams are very good, why do the players seem to think that you're good? So they take cues from management. And that's one of the things that I don't like, when teams don't make any moves at all during the break, or if they trade away good players. Just, it doesn't make any sense to me. But I wanted Seattle here, and I still may get there with them. I was hoping for a 120. It opened to 130. I'm seeing as low as 125 here. Good spot to fade Nashville here, coming off of that win. Keep in mind they just got shut out to the Rangers, embarrassing shutout. The game before that went 7-0, and they'd lost to Chicago and Winnipeg before that. So this is a team not playing well, even in the victory they had recently, and that was against Detroit. They only won that game 2-1 at home. So I don't want Nashville here. Want Seattle, hoping I can get down to 120. May get there anyway at the 125, but still holding out hope that I can get it a little bit lower here and play Seattle, team that's right now playing with a lot of confidence, especially on the road.
Yeah, and listen, and you talked about that East Coast road trip. They went 8-0 on that trip, and finished it off with a 3-0 shutout of the Bruins in Boston. An unbelievable road trip by them, and they're playing well. Like, it's showing right now, there are no confirmed goalies. It's still too early. It's showing Grubauer. I know some of the guys in our live chat are saying, Marty Jones, I don't trust Marty Jones. And listen, I get it, but Jones is 14-5-1 on the road. His goals against average, on the season, it's 306. It's 325 on the road, so slightly higher there as well too. And his save percentage is 883 on the road, 888 at home. And he hasn't been good in February and March. I think he's only 1-5, but he's got a win over Nashville. The last time they were in Seattle, he beat them 5-1 in that game. So he played well against them. It's still a very good road record at 14-5-1 for Marty Jones. And listen, the guy's 24-12-3 on the season. We may not like Marty Jones because we think of him playing for other teams, but he's had a very good season with the Seattle Kraken. So you got to give him some credit, but maybe because he's 1-5 in February and March, maybe it is Grubauer that we see tonight. Maybe they go with the hot hand. So we'll see what happens here in these two games with Seattle and Nashville over the next 3 days, and whether the Kraken put another nail in the coffin of the Predators. Guys, final game on the card, Pittsburgh and Dallas. Let's have a look at the numbers on this one. Get them up on the screen. Pittsburgh obviously winning last night in Colorado. And if you like them again, you're getting plus 125 on them. Dallas coming off a loss to the aforementioned Seattle Kraken are 145 at home. Brian, I'm going to go to you first on this one. Dallas off a loss, Pittsburgh off a win, and on a back-to-back, and likely likely DeSmith in goal for them as Jari went last night. Give me your thoughts on this game.
Well, the spot screams Dallas, doesn't it? Team off of a loss, and then Pittsburgh getting that upset victory on the road to a Colorado team who's been one of the best teams in hockey over the last month or so. But the line came out a little high. It's been bet down a little bit, but I still think it's too high. You take a look over the last month, goals plus or minus per 65 on 5. Dallas is minus 0.26. The Penguins minus 0.31. Pretty close to the same, but the expected goals, we're seeing Dallas at plus 0.46, and we're seeing the Penguins at almost a full goal, 0.87 goals. So the Pittsburgh's playing a lot better recently, and even though the spot says Dallas, take a look at what Dallas has done as of late. You mentioned they lost that home game to Seattle. I was very happy for that. They did get that victory at Calgary, 6-5, but they had to go to overtime. And Calgary's a team right now I'm looking to fade. For some reason, the lines on the Calgary games are being bet up, and they're coming out really high. It's all this expected goal things that, I've been looking at all year long. Calgary is one of those teams that the expected goals say they should be one of the best teams in hockey. They're not. The San Jose Sharks look at expected goals. They're supposed to be a playoff contender. They're not. We're that far into the season now that we're not going to get those advantages by looking at expected goals. If a team is not good in expected goals at this point of the season, there's so many games there that there's something out there that we're missing, and they just don't have the talent to be able to take advantage of that. Dallas has not played well as of late. I mentioned the game against Calgary, but they lose before to Edmonton on the road. They lose to Vancouver on the road, and they've got Vancouver revenge on deck in a couple of days. So the spot says Dallas, but my numbers say Pittsburgh, but I'll probably be sitting it out.
All right. I look at it, and you're right. The spot does scream Dallas in this one. And you look at it, I don't know what the Pens are going to do as far as goaltending, and we probably won't know off that game last night. We probably won't know until mid-afternoon, late afternoon. I don't think they're going to announce who's in goal, but if it's DeSmith, he came on in relief a couple times for Jari, who was pulled. He's 3-0 versus the Central this year. And only one of those was against one of the top teams in the Central, which was Colorado. But you look at some of his you look at the two divisions, and Ottinger, 16, 5, and 8 at home, 2.74 goals against average. And he has played extremely well against the Metro. And I have to think that you look at the depth of the teams in the Metro compared to the depth of the teams in the Central, and the Metro is much better. He's 6-1-3 versus the Metro with a 1.71 goals against average. Those are good numbers, especially against like I said, against the Metro, where maybe the bottom two teams you can sort of toss out, but you've got some very good teams in that Metro, and that's a very good number for him. I got to lean Stars in this one. I'm not convinced that the Pens can put together another performance back-to-back like they did yesterday in Colorado and give them full marks. They were the better team from start to finish in that game. They played a fantastic road defensive game there. But can they do it twice? And the second of a back-to-back, I'm not entirely sure. Maybe they surprised me tonight, but I got to go with the Dallas Stars in this one. All right, guys, we're going to get to our show Best Bet feature. But, Brian, I'm going to go to you. I want to know what you have up at Wager Talk. I know you got a 5% play, and these things, lifetime for you, have been absolutely phenomenal. A great win percentage with you. Let us know what else you got going on. March Madness, man.
Yeah, we've got a full card today. Been on a nice run. In all honesty, the last month had not been good, but the last week or so, it's amazing when I get away and just relax a little bit, how it could turn your fortunes around. Went to Arizona for spring training, took some hockey in, got to be out in the sun. And, even though I live in Vegas, it's been a cold winter out here in Vegas. So rejuvenated, and it's shown for my clients as we've done very well. Nice NBA winner yesterday. Today we've got an NBA play. We've got a play in 4% play in the tournament, and 2 plays in hockey, including a 5% play, 35-18 history-wise on our 5% plays. Love this 5% play going today. And I'm going to give you the other hockey play we have here as our best bet, and that's going to be in the St. Louis and Detroit game. Just not buying into this Detroit team. I talked about them just a minute ago after the All-Star break. They just have not played as well. They had that one game, and they played back-to-back against Boston, and they played Boston pretty tight. They went to Boston and lost 3-2. They come home and win 5-3. But ever since then, this offense has really struggled. They scored 1 against Nashville. Good defensive team, but Nashville's not a very good team overall. They scored 1 against Colorado. They scored 2 against Florida, a team who can give up a lot of goals. They lose that game 5-2. Then they played St. Louis on the road, and they win that game 3-2 in a shootout. So in regulation, the last 4 games, they scored 1-1, 2-2, and yet they're a favorite here against a team in rapid revenge in the St. Louis Blues. The Blues are a team that have really surprised me. They got rid of some good players this year, and they continue to play pretty good. In fact, they're playing just as well now as they had earlier in the season. Take a look at the games before they played that Detroit. They beat Washington on the road, and they beat Winnipeg, shut them out 3-0 at home. Now, after playing this team 2 days ago and losing in a shootout, rapid revenge play here on St. Louis. I think St. Louis is the better team, and they only have Anaheim to look forward to after this game. So I think they get some revenge here. Money's coming in on St. Louis a little bit, but they're still an underdog. You can still get them in the 110 range. So I'm going to take St. Louis here. That's a 3-star play for my clients today. If you're looking for the big 5%, 4% in college basketball, 3% for the NBA, better just get the full day and save yourself some money there. But looking for a big day. We've swept the card last few days, so I'm looking for another sweep here on a day that everybody's paying attention to college basketball. We could make money in everything on today's card.
Absolutely, absolutely, Brian. I wish you the best of luck in those. And you're correct. Instead of picking up just like the 5 for 35, get the 1 day all access 39, and get the rest of those plays. And have a full card that you can watch. And yeah, it doesn't matter where you're making money off of, the money spends the same way. Before I get into my best bet, I want to mention to the people who won shirts. I tweeted out a picture. All shirts have gone out to everyone. I know a lot of people requested XLs. I did have some XLs left, but a couple of people got, 2 people are going to get a large, and one's going to get an XXL. So if you got a large, hit the treadmill. You'll fit into that large. And if you get the extra large, McDonald's still has those chicken Big Macs out there. Go and have a few of those. You'll fit nicely into that XXL. I got a few jerseys left, or a few T-shirts left. On tomorrow's 6 and 60 segment, I will once again, when it gets posted onto our YouTube channel, I'll look at the comment section on the weekend and grab a couple names, and no matter how the 6 and 60 does, you'll get some T-shirts out of there. Now, as far as myself, 4 plays up in Euro qualifying. It starts today, match day 1, Euro qualifying, one of the biggest tournaments other than the World Cup. A lot of games on the card this afternoon. And of course, NHL, huge slate tonight, 4 plays up on the card. Your show best bet, I am going to the Winnipeg game tonight. Mark Scheifele is starting to get more ice time, and with the ice time, he's getting more shots on goal. His number, low juice, over 2.5, minus 115. 2 games against Anaheim this year, 4 shots in both games. He's hit his number 3 of the last 4 games, and that coincides with getting more ice time. So we're going to go Scheifele over 2.5 shots on goal, minus 115 as your show best bet. Guys, tomorrow we have Andy Lang back. We didn't get rid of him. Andy's back. He's going to be back tomorrow. Do some player props on the show. And we have the Irishman. Last Friday was St. Patrick's Day. We've given him a week to recover. He will be on the show. And then Andrew McInnes will be back on Monday in his regular hosting seat, so I can take a back seat and kind of relax and chat with you guys in our live chat. We appreciate you guys tuning in. Hit that like button. Wager Talk today at the top of the hour, guys. Good luck with all your plays today, whether it's NCAA, soccer, NHL. Make some money, guys, and we'll see you tomorrow.
How'd you like to get Ben Burns, Jazz Ray, and Brian Power for the next 3 days for the price of one? For 2 decades, Covers.com ranked among the biggest pick selling websites on the internet. Last July, they stopped selling picks, and at that time, their 3 most popular handicappers were Ben Burns, Brian Power, and Jazz Ray. With Wager Talk being the industry leader, it was only natural for those 3 esteemed handicappers to go exclusive with us. They all bring extremely impressive resumes to the table. While they're here because of their long-term excellence, all 3 have turned plenty of heads since their arrival. Jazz ranked among the best handicappers on the entire site in 2022. Brian is our #1 handicapper in March, and Ben quickly established himself as this season's #1 big game college hoops handicapper. For the first time ever, you can get all the picks from Ben, Brian, and Jazz for the price of only one of them. This amazing offer won't last, as you can get 3 days of picks regularly priced at $59 each, which is $177 for all 3, including any 5% best bets normally priced at $35 for only $655 per handicapper. That's right, $59 for all 3 cappers for all 3 days. Take advantage today.